Scandal, scandal, scandal. Read all about it. Doug Ford allows his developer friends to open up the Greenbelt, and all of their land all of a sudden got really, really valuable. We're talking 8 billion with a B valuable. Yeah, I'm going to give you kind of my take on what's happening in this controversial part of the real estate market. Now, if you're looking for some help on how to navigate the real estate market, whether it's buying, selling, or investing, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and the time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and I run and operate a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto Area on top of making awesome educational real estate content just like this one. Well, I guess controversial in this case, right? So I want to give you my take on kind of what's happening with the Greenbelt right now. And I would say it's also partially controversial, but I'd love to hear kind of your comments in the section below and let me know whether I was right or wrong and kind of my take, because you know what? I always like to hear kind of both sides of the story, right? So the article we're reviewing is the Greenbelt and Doug Ford. What is next? So for anyone who is unaware of what's happening, basically they talked about, I think, opening 7,400 acres of the Greenland. Not Greenland, the Greenbelt. So for anyone who's not familiar, the Greenbelt's kind of like this thing that came in the early 2000s, I think. It's to protect all the kind of like green space that we have in Ontario, right? Because Ontario is massive and we have, I think, the world's biggest Greenbelt. So you can see over here, basically all the colored areas are what they designate as a Greenbelt. And I've always said, since I've been investing, that if you're going to buy something, you should buy within the Greenbelt, and preferably something that owns a piece of land, right? Because you don't make land anymore, and the chance of them plowing down all the Greenbelt is very low, meaning that you can see over here, there's a lot of scarcity. So if you zoom in here, the Greenbelt basically encompasses like Curtis, Oshawa, the Durham region, right? Would be Pickering, Ajax, and you got your GTA, so your Torontos, your York regions, your Markham, Richmond Hill, Vaughan, your Peel regions, Mississauga, Brampton, then you got your Oakville and your Halton region, then you got your Milton, goes to Burlington, Hamilton, and it wraps around all the way to Niagara to like the St. Catherine kind of Welland area, right? So that's kind of what the Greenbelt is. And most of the homes in here are generally very valuable in terms of land, right? So that's kind of always been my investment thesis. You want to buy where land is scarce, because like Ontario is huge. Canada's like the second biggest piece of land in Canada, but everyone kind of like, lives in Southern Ontario and everyone wants to be here because that's where kind of all like the jobs and everything is. So that's always my investment thesis. So them opening up some of the Greenbelt, I mean, I didn't think they would do it, but eventually they did. And there was kind of like a lot of the chatter, right? So 7,400 open up. And right now what's happening is that apparently the Auditor General looked at it and said, hey, of the 15 pieces of Greenbelt land that opened up, there looks like there's some kind of corruption that, some of Doug Ford's developer buddies they bought the land, and now it's very, very valuable because they could develop on it. Because previously it was agricultural, right? Meaning farmland and everything. So it's like some of the best, call it like agricultural land we have in Canada. Because, like if you ever do like grapes and nectarines and peaches, they're coming in season now. Super delicious, by the way. That's kind of where they're grown, right? So Ontario grows a lot of that produce. And that agricultural land is being turned into housing now. So we're going to lose that agricultural land. So here's kind of like my take on this, right? Like, is this necessary? I would say no. But is it going to speed up kind of us building more homes so that people aren't on the streets? Yes. Is it going to make things more affordable? Probably not, even though maybe these builders got it at a discount. They're still going to sell it at market value. It's just their margins are higher, right? So that's kind of what I think. But is it going to help create more homes that maybe instead of like having prices run up as quickly as they normally do, and they just kind of stay flat? Yeah, it may help with that, right? Because that's our problem, right? We have too much demand, like I was talking about earlier this week, that's coming in here. And we just don't have enough homes, especially like type of homes people want to like raise a family in, right? So like your entry level kind of freehold homes are very, very popular right now, and they're still going in multiple offers in a lot of cities. So that type of product is what's desired right now, not necessarily like the condos, but we need more land to build. So is opening up the Greenbelt good for it? Yeah, somewhat to an extent, right? So that's kind of my perspective on it. So I have highlighted here. So Ford is basically saying that when you're in a housing crisis, which I 100% agree with them, we are right now, when there's inferno happening, firefighters run to the fire, they don't run away from it. And it's my position, I have to deal with the crisis. So his whole stance is, look, I'm going to open up as much of the Greenbelt as possible to create this. My take on this is like, yeah, there's a corruption side on it. It is creating some more homes, but I don't think opening up the Greenbelt is going to make things any more affordable, right? That's kind of like my biggest gripe in all this. Like if you open up the Greenbelt and say, hey, look, your margins are capped at, whatever, right? And someone does the books, whatever, right? Whatever the, policy is, and they build there, or like they mix in some like, call it like affordable homes, like we talked about, whatever that means, right? For a lot of people, then yeah, it makes sense. Because the challenge with a lot of this like Greenbelt stuff is like, it's kind of like really, really far out. And like there's no services there yet, right? So it's really expensive to service it. So like once the builders build it, right, they do have to pay for like, bringing a lot of the servicing there. So like electrical, water, garbage, gas, all that stuff, right? It's the city's job to kind of like keep and maintain that, right? So it does become more of a burden on the taxpayers if you do it too far. So that's why like density makes sense. But the challenge of density in the cities that we have already is that like you can't build it at scale. Like we're going to find like a few hundred, a few thousand acres to build like another giant subdivision, right? So it needs to make sense in the sense of way. So that's why like I'm not against it. Like, look, I mean, there's corruption for sure, like called scandal, whatever, right? Like someone's making a lot of money for it, but is it going to create more homes that we definitely need? Yeah, right? So it's kind of like, what's the lesser of the two evils, right? You have people sleeping on the street, or some builders make some more money. Maybe take the people off the streets, right? Again, like it's just like a cascading effect. Like I'm not saying the people on the streets are going to buy these homes. I'm just saying like when people who can buy these homes move out of their places, it kind of opens up some other vacancies for where those people bought the homes they're living in, right? So the other one I have here is Ford and its government would accept and implement 14 of the 15 total recommendations from the Auditor General. So meaning 14 of the 15 sites are going to continue on. Only one of them, because I think it's like a marshland or something, is not going to be kind of like removed. So obviously there's a whole lot of like political stuff I'm not going to get into, but if you guys want to have comment on it, put a comment section below. Love to engage with you guys on that. Is this criminal in nature? I don't know, man. This happens like all the time. Like I don't really follow it. It is what it is. Like my whole thing is like, I rather worry about the things I can control as opposed to things I cannot control. And this is totally in the realm of things I cannot control, right? And there's a lot of people talking about this where it says homes should be built in existing cities and towns, not on farmland, forests, and the Greenbelt, which is fine, right? But like, it just comes down to like, yes, there's a climate change kind of component of it, but at the same time, like, if we're not going to stop the immigration, we're allowing so much people into Ontario, like we do have to build more homes regardless. Like we have to house these people, especially like these entry-level homes. Whether they're affordable or not, I think that's kind of the other question, right? So, I never really followed much of this. Like I started voting, in my early 20s, just kind of following along because I realized how much kind of like government made an impact into my real estate career, especially in 2017. So like I pulled up some interesting things just so that you guys have a history of it, right? So this was in 2018, so about 5 years ago, and somebody basically kind of did a little bit of, call it like audit into what happened. And I just want to point out a couple things that are interesting to you. And this is why I wasn't surprised this was going to happen. So apparently, according to this research or audit, right, Ford got about $500 million, right? So $460 million in corporate donations. And a lot of this is kind of like aimed at getting, I think, Kathleen Wynne out of office at the time, right? So again, apologize again. So political companies, just bear with me for a sec, right? So a lot of these development companies and construction companies, firms were kind of helping donate to campaign for Ford so that he would win. And what I found very interesting is you can see over here, right? Like over here, some of the top corporate donors are Mattamy Homes, definitely big time builder. They contribute 20% of the donations, right? So this is all normal, right? This is lobbying. This is basically politics. If anyone has overwatched House of Cards, it's like kind of basically like this from Netflix. So people are lobbying, donating so that someone's in power, they're in the back pocket. Yes, they get a little bit of favors on the back end. And you know what? It's kind of part of how, I guess, politics work, right? You can't really rule it out. The interesting thing, and I don't want to like throw it on the table or not, is like the homes, at least from my research, Mattamy actually didn't benefit from any of these kind of Greenbelt removals, right? It's other builders, which I'm not going to put names on, right? So it's not like, other people haven't done this in the past before, nor they plan to do it. It's just that it's bound to happen. And yes, call it the guys who bought the Greenbelt land for, call it like, pennies on the dollar, right? And now it's worth like $1, right? So it's multiple times more valuable, $8 billion according to the Auditor General. Look, a very good example of this, and let me start with this. I'm putting my conspiracy theory hat on. Why did the Ontario line end right at Science Center? Is there a giant builder there with a giant parcel of land with tons of condos coming up? Yeah. Or back in 2015, I think, when they were proposing the extension of Vaughan, why did it fall right in the center of Smart Center's kind of like giant parcel of land that has potentially 25 condo buildings coming up, right? This is the parcel of land with Transit City 1 to 5 on it and artworks that's being built right now. So these are all questions we can wonder, but you got to ask yourself, is it good planning with the city and the builders, or was there some like corruption or scandal? We're never going to know, right? But if they're going to be able to build some homes so that it kind of prevents prices from going up, and remember, I'm saying that prevents prices from going up as fast. I don't think it's going to come down, because like builders still have to build at a profit margin, and if they can sell at a market value, I don't foresee why they would not do that, right? Because it's a private company. And a very good example is this: like, there's a parcel of land in Markham that I pass by a lot, and clients always ask me about it. Right, so this is like Major Mac and Kennedy, McCowan area. It's a massive, massive parcel of land. They slowly start putting up signs on, and I'm almost confident anybody in the Markham area, like my circle and kind of like our culture, once they open up, there's gonna be line up of people trying to buy those homes, right? Just because of the areas, and they're gonna be like detached homes for $2 million, easy. So could these builders who own the land for like, I think maybe 15 years or so or no, built it earlier? Absolutely. Did they have the ability to build it? Because, maybe they didn't have the permitting, maybe they do it. No, right? But it's in their best interest because they know it's a very valuable piece of land that they could just wait it out because it's for profit margins, right? Even though cost of construction has gone up, as long as the value of the market has gone up, they kind of take that calculation to kind of determine how and when to sell and for how much, right? So circling back to this whole Greenbelt thing and whether these guys are going to sell at some point, shape, form, the profit margins are up to them. But at the end of the day, if you give the Greenbelt land to kind of like big builders who can actually build, at the very least, you're going to get some homes to prevent the prices from going up, right? But can the builders increase and charge more? Probably, because there's a demand for a lot of these for-rental homes, right? So it really comes down at the end of the day, like, yes, it's profitable for a lot of these builders. They made a ton of money. But if we're going to get some homes out of this at the end of the day, you know what? It's the lesser of the evils. That's kind of like my take on this, right? Let me know what you guys think of this whole fiasco, because a lot of people are talking about it right now because, the Greenbelt was kind of sacred. Anyways, if you are looking for some help on how to navigate this real estate market, not talk about the political side of all of this, right? It's just more like, whether you should be buying your home, investing, or selling right now in the upcoming fall market, you can book a call with me. Use the link that's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that I'm done watching this video, I think you should check out this video. And you know what? Why don't you check out this video too?